So, to continue the conversation about how my abilities unfolded, I'm going to talk a bit in this video about how my communication with spirit unfolded. So, when I was ill, I read a book by Sonia Choquette called Ask Your Guides. Um, and in one chapter, when it's about sort of communicating with your guides, I was falling off to sleep and I saw a picture of Elizabeth Taylor in National Velvet, the film National Velvet. And I was thinking, oh, why am I seeing Elizabeth Taylor in my picture? And then I was like, oh, Elizabeth, your name is Elizabeth. And I'd been trying to get the name of my guide using the techniques in the book. And I was like, and I was just drifting off to sleep. And it was an experience that I never forget because it was like, and there is no words for it, but it was like I was wrapped in love, like a blanket of the most comforting, gentlest love like I'd ever experienced. And I was like, oh, Elizabeth is the name of my guide. And I didn't do very much with it. I didn't know what else to do after that. And I have a tendency to sign up to things without knowing what I'm signing up to. I just follow my intuition. So I end up with techniques and I learned lots of different things while I was still ill. And, but I didn't really develop my understanding of how to speak with Elizabeth. And I think because my vibration was still quite low because I'd been ill and I was still ill, that I couldn't really get the vibration high enough on a regular basis in order to speak with Elizabeth. So I had other people do readings for me and gave me names of other guides. I didn't really resonate with them at all. But I couldn't speak to Elizabeth particularly easily either. So I just kind of left it. And then as I started to work with quantum touch and my abilities became more stronger, as I've talked about in the previous video, one of the things that I noticed is that when I was working with clients, I'd hear a song in my head and it was the same song. And it was, I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's quite funny, but it's a song from a childhood program. And I'm quite childish in many ways. So it was a song from a childhood TV show, and I'd hear it and I'd be thinking, oh, why do I keep hearing this one song? And then I realized that was Elizabeth letting me know that she was available. And so I'd say, is that Elizabeth? And she'd be like, yes. I'm like, okay, brilliant. Are you coming in to help me with the healing? And she'd be like, yes. And I was like, oh, brilliant. What can you offer me? And so she would say, have a look here, or maybe it's something to do with this. And I'd be like, oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Right. And so Elizabeth would come in to help me help my clients. And so we started to have this much greater bond. And so why is it with quantum touch? It's because with quantum touch, you learn how to raise your vibration and you maintain that vibration. And after a while, you just live at that vibration. So it was much easier then at that point to be able to communicate with Elizabeth. So I started to then, outside of healing, test for myself, like answers to questions. And I've learned a number of different things in the past. So things like tarot, I read it intuitively. I've done a course on it, but I don't really utilize it. To me, divination techniques are just, that's what they are. There's a starting point, but you're really intuitively reading into them. So I've also certified in numerology, and it is very useful, and it's a very good starting point for really reading intuitively to something. So I used those techniques for a while, but then I just started to rely on Elizabeth, to be honest. I mean, I would just not even sometimes say Elizabeth. I would just say higher beings, anyone who's willing to help, no one of a lower level, only of higher beings and above, of guide and above. If you've got something to offer me as an answer, please can you offer me? Or I would pull tarot cards with the same intention and just say which is the best option for me. And so I started to utilize that on a regular basis. there'll be some times where it's too complicated and you don't know. There's no way your mind can, because all your mind does is guess. It does a prediction. It projects into the future and it tries to guess the answer. And I decided that was a stupid way to live one's life, is to let the mind decide, because it doesn't know. It's just giving its best guess of how something is going to work out based on facts, and often you don't have all the facts. It's just a pointless way of living. So instead, I decided just to always ask, what's the best choice out of this for me? And I would ask either through cards or through other divination methodology, or yes or no. I get an answer and I would just follow it. Simple as that. And it always worked out really brilliantly. So then I just kind of stopped utilizing the mind for those kind of big decisions. But like Elizabeth had been with me, and it was like me having a conversation with somebody in the room. And then over time, she kind of moved. She moved from outside, as if I was having a conversation outside of me, to a conversation inside of me. So she wasn't separate, she was inside. And then at one point, she kind of said to me, I'm passing you over to the 3Ps, who are, I can't say it, Palladians. That's why they're the 3Ps, because I can't say the name of the Pallades area. And they've been helping me develop other things, and they tend to answer me on a lot of things unless I specifically ask for Elizabeth. And then so I ask a lot of questions about how can life be better, how can we create stuff, how can we learn from like some of the things in the past which I think would have been great and then it all failed, and why did it fail? And so I ask a lot of questions because I want to know the answers to these questions. And so one day I was asking a question in a meditation, and somebody answered, and it wasn't the 3Ps. It wasn't Elizabeth. It was a totally different tone of voice, and it was a totally different voice. And often I don't ask, because I think if someone's giving me an answer, I don't really need to know who it is. I have a lot of faith and trust, so I don't bother. And sometimes I don't recognize the name, so I don't bother for that reason as well. But I happen to be sitting there thinking, hold on, this isn't the 3Ps. This isn't Elizabeth. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but who is speaking? And it was the name of a guru. And I said, oh, I didn't know I had access to you. And they said, oh, you are now got access to the realm with the gurus. And I was like, oh, can I lose access? And they were like, no, you can't lose access. Now you've got it. You can't lose access to it. So I was like, excellent. And so, and I think it's because I ask a lot of questions that gurus could very, very kindly help answer for me. And so I've had a number of gurus come through. They come through of their own accord. I'm asking a question, they come forward. I don't ask specifically for a particular guru. I don't see the point. I'm just trying to get the answers to something. So I just ask. And if they come through, I sometimes will say, may I ask who it is? They'll tell me. Sometimes I have to Google them. Sometimes I know them. But the answer is always perfect. And it deepens my understanding. And it's often things that I share with the members in the group, or I share on these YouTube videos as well. So these are three sort of, if you like, groups: the realm of the gurus, the 3Ps, and Elizabeth, who I speak to the most. I have never had an ego over, I need to speak to Archangel Michael, he's the top guy, or I need to speak to this. That's not who I am. I just kind of ask for help and it is given. And I'm always very grateful because the answer is always perfect for what I need. But I'm not really into asking specifically. Sometimes I ask in a healing session, I would ask if there is anyone of a higher than guide or above who's able to come in and help directly with the healing, please do come forward. You are very welcome. And I do this with the permission of a client. And sometimes angels and different beings come in and they help with the healing. And I can then just, in the old healing way methodology, where you have your hands on somebody or around them energetically, the energy would be so strong I would just stand back and just let them get on with it, just holding the space. But Could I ask for someone specifically? I probably could. It's just not in my nature. I just don't see the point. So that's kind of how it's developed. And I still, and I'll just end on this very, very, very briefly. And that is that raising your vibration and being at a vibration whereby you have got this lovely spaciousness, you're quiet so you can hear them. Whether you hear them, feel them, see them, I don't know. Everyone's got different abilities. Smell them. I don't really have that ability, but I tend to hear and I tend to see. Is that initially you need to raise your vibration, I would say, because it's just that vibrational spaciousness that allows for it. And it's sort of like trying to meet someone halfway. Like they're there, they're available. It's just that we have not reached the vibration. And what I would say is that in the last year to year and a half, the communication has become much clearer with everybody across the board. I used to really struggle to get to the vibration to talk to the 3Ps. They try and give me information. It would be like a radio signal and it would cut out and then I couldn't get them back. And it was really hard. And I get frustrated because they try and give me these healing techniques and I just couldn't hear the end part of it. And I'm like, I can't make it up. I can't just let my mind make it up. That would be unethical. I need the other part of it. And I would try to get them back and I couldn't get them back. And now I can speak to them as clear as Elizabeth. It's like someone's in the same room with me. It's not hard at all. I don't think that's just me. I think it's because we're getting a lot closer vibrationally, like personally. I just think it's where we are in humanity at the moment. This information and the help is available to us. Because it used to be really hard to talk to the 3Ps. And I was kind of shocked when I asked a question and I was like, oh, that's not Elizabeth answering. You're the 3Ps, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, my God, I can hear you so clearly. And it was like they were in the room with me and I could have that exact conversation as if they were in the room with me. And it wasn't a struggle vibrationally to stay up there at all. And so that has changed in the last year and a half. So we're probably in the greatest time ever for being able to tap into the wisdom, tap into the healing that is available. It really has been, we've jumped, I think, already to a certain level. So if you are interested in it, you're doing it at the perfect time. So if there are like things you want to work on and develop, I'd say now is the time. Because it's easier than it's ever been, really, truly. And like information is coming in thick and fast. Inspiration is coming in thick and fast. You know, how I feel about healing was changing over the course of 2 years. And then I sat down and I said, I don't like the old style of healing. It doesn't feel right to me. And they said, no, there's a better and easier way. And they gave it to me in one go. And I'm like, right, this is very different. The understanding became much clearer. I'd been sort of working around the edges. I realized that quantum touch and the old way of healing was no longer relevant. It felt disempowering to people, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then it just came in one day. And so the information is now available. The information is clearer, easier for us to access. The conversations are easier for us to have. It's just really creating the time and the space for it. And, as humans, we're not always great with that. I do my best, but I'm not even great with that. So, yeah, it is a developmental process, but there is the most help I've ever seen in my lifetime that I know of. Well, I say in the last 10 years because I wasn't working on it before, but like last 12 years or so. So yeah, I hope this helps. It's just my story. It's how I've unfolded my understanding. My understanding of healing has leapfrogged in the last 6 months, and that's why I'm offering a new course in 2024 that I've created myself. And it really is, as far as I can tell, is the fast tracking way of doing things in terms of healing, and it is a bit different. But it is worth it because it's freeing on a level that I couldn't have imagined before. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you like it. And thanks a lot.